Hey, what's up, everybody? Dylan, Felipe, Usher. Just getting started. Funny, right after I hit start on this live stream. Oh, sorry, I think I'm echoing. There we go. Right after I hit start on this live stream, I realized, is there a power supply in here? But there is apparently. How much of a manual? Mike, I have no idea, but I hope Mike. Well, you know what? They advertised 6 milliseconds, so that's what I'm hoping to see. Felipe, my pleasure. I love this stuff. Box. Yeah. Let me try to get at an angle where that should work. Unfortunately, I still haven't upgraded my audio setup, so this is about as good as it's gonna get. I could try to extend. Yeah, there we go. I keep meaning to get one of those Rode wireless lav mics to use. I just don't have the couple $100. I borrowed Corey's at Retro World Expo and it sounded great. Um, and I know Destiny uses it too, and hers sounds good. I guess I got to get around to doing it. Thanks, DJ. No, actually, the past I can't take any responsibility for or any credit for this. A viewer and Patreon subscriber was the one who wanted to buy this for themselves. So they bought it and had it drop shipped to me, and then I'm just going to ship it to them. It was Kim from last week's Q&A. So this all happened pretty quick and pretty exciting, actually. Where's my pocket knife to open this sucker up? This little Swiss Army knife was a gift for being one of the groomsmen at my cousin's wedding, and I use this sucker every day. I even bought a little sharpener for it to make sure I keep it fresh. So it was certainly packed nice. And it's definitely heavier than I expected, which is, probably a good thing. Power supply is attached to it here, so that's why I couldn't find one in the box. Um, Mike, I don't remember the price, but if you want to double check, it is in the description. I guess the price isn't in the description. The link to the website is. My bad. My bad. Hey, Vga Gamer, what's up? All right, comes with a VGA cable. Comes with a second power supply for like the European style, and it comes with the controls as well as an extension cable for the controls. So I don't think you have to use the controller board extension. I think you could plug it directly in. Yeah, it would have to be. I think I'm going to use it just to keep it out of the way so I don't like push it on itself or anything like that. And then it comes with the side rail mounts, which are great. That's handy. this plastic because I have extra that I could rewrap it in. Funny enough, I have it right here. That's what I use whenever I do international shipments. I do one box, and I wrap it in this stuff, and then I put it in another box because I've had many things arrive to me and arrive to friends that were underwater. And I don't mean got wet in a rainstorm. I mean those suckers were underwater, no doubt in my mind. The Past Blaster, I'm not expecting bad results, but I'm hoping for good results. But we'll see, because I already have some thoughts on this. Very carefully taking this off so I can put it back when I go to reship it. So right off the bat, it has the look of a digital signage panel. Kind of a very industrial, basic box for it, which is not. I mean, it's not good or bad. It is what it is. I actually think it's kind of good. Arcade monitors aren't supposed to look like, of like fancy LCD monitors. So I'm just gonna plug this extension in. However, you don't need to. I could have just plugged it right here. Which would be good if you were just making this into another monitor, which I'll definitely get to before this stream is over. Hey, what's up, Ash? Good to see you, my friend. And this is a basic 12 volt, 5 amp power supply. I guess technically, if you had a good enough arcade PSU, you wouldn't even need this AC transformer. You could just connect it directly. Grab a power supply, and of course, the very first thing, a time slip. AC adapter right here. And grab my HDMI cable now. So, first things first, let's just plug in the power and see what happens. Do we get a splash screen? Yeah. It says no cable. Okay, cool. That doesn't matter, I was just curious. Connect our time sleuth. And it comes up immediately. That was pretty quick. Okay, so skipping right to it, the moment of truth. Pause for dramatic effect. 61 people watching. Let's see how this goes. Not getting a reading. Interesting. We try a different resolution. I mean, this does happen sometimes, but not very often. Try 480p now. Starting this off pretty lame. Let me reset the time sleuth. You never know. Maybe there's just something up with this. I mean, we could obviously test it using the CRT split method, but Is my lens dirty? Good question. Just clean that off. I definitely see the backlight. I don't know if you probably can't see that on camera, but I could definitely see the backlight up top of the LCD panel. Let me try this again. Okay. All right. I guess I just needed to reset my time sleuth. So, the manufacturer said 6 milliseconds of latency. Wait, is this even working? No, it's being finicky again. I might have to reflash the time sleuth. I just flashed it to test this. Let me test this right here on my main monitor, the one that I'm streaming with. Can't see it, and it might mess with the stream, but something's happening. Ash, is the brightness a bit low? You know what? Let me just test the time sleuth first to make sure, but I'll test that next. Down. Wouldn't be the first time I knock something over on stream. 2 milliseconds of latency in the corner of my panel now. 9 in the middle. 16, 17 at the bottom. So this should definitely mean that it's working. So good job, Ash. Let me check the brightness next and see what we can do. Oh, Ace, that's a good tip. I'll try that next too. Brightness is at 100. Oh no, backlight's at 100. Brightness is at 50. Do 100 and see what happens. No. Check what other settings and see. Maybe there's try to get my hand out of the way. Get this lined up so I could see the camera and see the chat here. All right. Yeah, I'll turn off the lights next. Let me just see if there's something easier. So, backlight. Sharpness down did something? No way. Well, you know what? I don't know what the hell's going on, but let's see if we can give this a try. So it says 1.5, 2 milliseconds of latency in the upper right hand corner in 1080p. Hey Belmont, thanks for swinging by. So just over 1 there. All right, but is this an odd? No. Okay. So at 1080p, let's see what it's like for the native resolution of the panel. Basically the same exact thing. So 1.8 milliseconds of latency. That's pretty cool. And this is just the native resolution. We already did 1080p. Now let's try 480p. Same thing. And then 240p. Or 480i, also interesting. Low latency, so this is probably Bob deinterlacing then. Yeah, Ash, good point. Can't really fake these results, right? It's not like those like graphics card test programs that people used to be able to fake back in the day to make their graphics cards look better. This is really just reading the backlight. So that's pretty interesting. I'm going to set it back to the native resolution just to make it easier for everybody to see. Now I'm going to mess with some settings on here, and I'm going to try to do it all while holding it and checking the chat and everything else. The A Gamer, how sharp is the video? Pretty shitty in 240p, but we're going to mess with that afterwards. So let's see. Sharpness all the way up does not seem to affect latency at all. That must have just been the backlight before. The issues, the backlight must have been too bright. That must have been it, really. So in here, we'll double check sharpness later as well. Let's just set it back to 0 like I normally like to. Oh, auto sends you back. Okay. Does it? Menu time, OSD, H and V position, transparency, all basic settings, handy to have. H and V position of the display. Pixel clock. Let's check this out. Oh, it's not allowing you to select that. Maybe if I change it to this. Also, up is down and down is up. So this says down and this says up. So they're labeled wrong on this, which is pretty funny. So that must just be for the VGA input. Ah, yeah, Ash beat me to it. Haha, so did you, Ace. Sorry, Ace. So Ash is first. All right, so let me back out of this. And we'll test VGA next. Color. Okay, it all makes sense. Basic settings. Aspect ratio, that's cool. We'll figure that out. Let's see what these do. Overscan. So it's not letting me change it. That must be VGA as well. Ash, I don't think it's that similar. I could be wrong though. So, advanced. Because it's not letting me change any of these, like aspect ratio. Well, it lets me change aspect ratio. That's cool. Back off, go down. Not letting me change overscan. I don't know what this is. Not affecting latency though. Ultra vivid. Doesn't mess with latency. That's always good. And then input should be pretty self-explanatory. Audio. I think audio must be just for the output. Let's see. There might be speakers in here. I would hope not. That would be a pretty. I would hope the people in arcade machines took the time to put decent speakers in there. But anyway, let's now take this opportunity to test the VGA inputs, and we'll see how this goes. And then, of course, we're going to hook up stuff directly to it and see how that works as well. So for this, I'm going to be reach this with my short little pigtail. I'm going to need an actual cable. 1 second. I love my little VGA adapter here, but hey, Deity Microphones, how's it going? I am using your microphone. This stream is not sponsored by Deity, but it could be. Going directly into this cool little converter, which always seems to work with the time sleuth without any extra power, which is very nice. And it automatically switched over and it automatically did the auto adjustment. So let's check it here. Am I still on camera? Yes. Interestingly enough, no. As long as I position the time sleuth properly, it's about the same latency. I'm impressed already. Bolum himself, keep the RetroTink 5X or sell and go CRT. That's got to be completely up to you. Do you already have a gorgeous OLED TV where you're just enjoying the heck out of your entire experience? Selling that and getting a cheap CRT, I don't know. Whereas, do you have the ability to get a PVM or a BVM? Do you love extra sharp CRT stuff? And yeah, thank you very much, Deity Mics. We absolutely do love your products too. That was not bullshit. I really did buy this with my own money, so I obviously mean it. I'm very, very, very harsh on all of my equipment and harshly critical, and I've never talked shit about your mic once, so that just goes to show you. So let's set this to 240p, and this is going to kind of simulate sort of what you would expect from a direct 240p signal or an arcade board signal. Now, the website and the manual says if you're coming directly off of an arcade board, you need to buy another one of their boards that interfaces with it, which makes perfect sense because you want to drop the voltage and everything else. So it's very blurry, very, very blurry. We'll check that more with an actual game console in a moment. Well, let's just see some of those settings here. Let me sit back down so I can try to get a better angle as well. Ugh. All right. That's interesting. Oh, you could see it do the wavy things. I don't know if that's coming across in the stream at all. Darn it! But however, so we're at 4151. Let's back out for a minute and check something out. By the way, it says HDMI 1 and HDMI 2. There's only one HDMI port, so they screwed that up in the firmware. Not a big deal at all, obviously. I'm just saying. Um, I saw an auto thing before. All right, let's try these. Aspect ratio. No, not let me access these either. Weird. Okay. So I guess let's just get out of here and try hitting the auto button. See if that affected anything. Okay. So it did make some changes. So I think, unless anybody in the chat disagrees, I think we're done with the time sleuth. And I think it's time to plug in actual console in. Does anybody have any other time sleuth related things they would like me to test? Any other related resolutions? Anything like that? Ash really wanted the LCD version case for the Laser Bear screen. Should have waited or asked. Yeah, man. What is the max kill hertz? That should be in the spec. Let me look for you right here. I mean, it's 1600 by 1200 is the max resolution. So I would assume that is the is it. Ash, it does. That's what we were just showing. 15. So let's try a couple of things then. Let's try multiple. Let's get my box of toys here. And we got. Oh, that fell apart. Another one of these. See if this will fit directly. It's one of the reasons why we kind of designed this like this, to make it easy to plug into things. That is the spark cleaner. The position that is here. Setting both of the settings up high towards there should turn everything on the way we need it. But very carefully. But I also have to try and connect. I'm going to use a Nomad because it's easier that way. And that way we'll be testing RGBS 15 kilohertz. C15 to start with just one of these little batteries. This is a Duracell charger that's shaped like a like a battery pack, or like a real battery. That power cable. Really got no idea. Using it yesterday and oh wait, here it is. Here it is. Got it. How do you handle audio? Um, sorry, I didn't know if you were talking in the chat to other people or talking about this. Sorry. Yeah, John, some older SNES games do have surround sound, and I'll have a video out somewhat soon to show how to test to make sure your receiver is in the right mode to get those. Shouldn't cost you anything, but it very likely will require you to put your receiver in a specific mode, not in like an auto detect. If this works, then I'll try to prop it up where everybody can see it or not. But if it doesn't work, then so that would mean that this probably, in all likelihood, does not accept a C-Sync signal. However, I think I have a cable without the resistor on it for this exact reason. Well, no, because no, that, that's not true at all. I take that back because that's what this is for. That's what the SCART cleaner's for. So let me just try a different one and see. Maybe this turned itself off. I was having problems with this thing the other day, so I guess I'll try that one more time. See on video, was the light on or not? Yeah, actually, I don't know if this thing's working right or not, but the that little Duracell battery pack thingy is not. So let me try turning it on one more time, but I think I have to switch battery packs. Yeah, okay, that was just the battery pack. So I'll get a better connection than in here if we could actually test it. For the record, this thing keeps falling off because this was one of the ones that I had done very specifically for the data pad cards. I'll show you why. DVI connectors with screws in there usually. Okay, so I'm going to go to the scroll test because I think that's going to be really handy. Oh, it's that stupid power charger again. That's what I get for using a free thing. Kind of neat that it sort of looks like a battery, but stupid that it keeps turning itself off. As I suspected, this looks terrible. Let me adjust the camera so you all could see it a little bit better. Let me adjust the camera settings. Okay. Let me try to zoom in just because I want to make sure that you all can really see this. Now, just also please keep in mind that what I'm showing and talking about is 240p input. So I never once expected this thing to be sharp. I mean, the focus looks off, but that's legit about where it is. So let's take a look at some of the settings here. First of all, I guess let's just check the filters. Oh, that's so funny. I didn't realize you could see me over here, but that's perfect. You actually see what I'm doing. Hey, what's up, Nicole? Well, that's kind of my point, though. Nicole asked who uses 240p for something like this, but like, I don't think this is. I don't think this is advertised properly. I guess that's what I'm getting at. So let's just let it resync for a minute. Ash wireless surround speakers. I think there's a pretty darn good use case for those. All right, so the one thing we just learned by this device over here is this does require TTL level sync. You cannot just plug a C-Sync level cable directly into it. And the other thing we found is that the low pass filter, let's toggle that off again. Should go off and then back on after it resyncs. Or no? Okay. I don't really see too much of a change, so it's probably got its own filter in there, which is good. Oh, well, thanks for swinging by, Nicole. It was fun to see you. So I guess another thing we could do real quick before we dig into any of the other testing is... So, it is actually processing 240p as 240p. It's not trying to deinterlace. So that's another pretty cool bonus right here. Let's go back and scroll and check for sharpness, and then we'll kind of check some other stuff after. But let's see what we got. The sharpness setting actually did seem to make it sharper, but then we lost the signal. Maybe it was the battery pack again. Maybe I just need a really long USB cable and I gotta stop dicking around with the battery packs. That's pretty interesting though. Let's try moving up, scrolling. I mean, it's not the best. There's some judder there. Be centered so we can see it a little better. So that is interesting. Let me go back in and check that out. I don't know if my giant ass head's gonna be in the way, but I just want to look in really quickly, see if I can see any kind of ringing around it. No, that's surprisingly impressive. So let me turn the scroll on and adjust the sharpness this way. I mean, look, it's not ever going to be the best scaler you've ever seen, but I mean, in the context of a scaler built into a panel, that's kind of cool. I got to admit, I did not expect to see this at all. I think that's the other thing that keeps powering off. So let me just try to find a really long USB cable. Sorry to kill the stream like this again, but I don't know why that's happening. Need a really long. I guess maybe this is an extension. Well, Ash, one of the things that I distinctly remember a million years ago was if you turned up the sharpness, it would add latency, and on top of that, it would mess with the signal a lot. Crap or something. I don't really know, but it doesn't seem no TV seems to treat sharpness the same way anymore. Signal came right back, so that was just that. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking a long time ago, dude. I know we're both old men, so you got to remember the whole like the early year of the HDC or HD TVs and flat panels and stuff. So let me queue up a game, and then I'll show you kind of how that looks. Not just the scrolling thing. Actually, maybe this would help too, showing the sharpness up with the menu. Yeah, so look, even if this thing isn't perfect, and even if this isn't the greatest scaling, you're getting sharp scaling just by plugging something in, and that's it. Um, Jason, I'm getting there, but I'll be there in a minute. I just kind of want to continue to check this stuff out. By the way, sometimes down is down, sometimes down is up. It is not consistent. That's very strange. Something a little wonky with this firmware. Ace, I don't know if my camera would. I did color calibrate before with an 18% gray, just standard color calibration thing. But if Ace is still here, I don't know how calibrated this is actually going to be. So I'm not sure if I even want to mess with the colors because I don't want to misrepresent. I mean, I'm kind of impressed. I'll let the track mode play, and somebody just asked for another setting check, which I will gladly do. Just get this all set up without dropping my Nomad. I love that thing. All right, so it was overdrive with the scrolling test. Let's see what that is. No, it is not allowing me to select it. That was me hitting the power button just to test, but 1600 by 1200 is the max resolution. So, I mean, obviously, the next thing that I want to do with this thing is plug in the RetroTink 5X, but this is pretty interesting. Velociraptor. So, if you take into context that this is, let me get out of this menu. If you take into context that this is basically the free scaler that came with this monitor, then yeah, I think it looks awesome. Now, comparing it to something like, a device that costs as much or more than this, I don't think there's going to be that much of a comparison, but this is a free built-in thing where all you really need to do is get the signal the way you'd like it. Now, let me try. I'm going to go back to the 240p test suite for a moment, and I also want to zoom out for a moment as well. Then I'll put a scaler through it and go from there. There's one other menu setting that I definitely want to check. Ah, historic nerd. Thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. Ian says, I don't know, Bob. That screen looks a little wide. Well, funny. What I was actually going to show is you could see the space on top and the space on the bottom. So the aspect ratio is correct, but there's still space around it. So let me see if I could find an overscan setting that it'll allow me to use. This is a 4x3 monitor. Not allowing me to select overscan, which stinks because that would be perfect for right now. But let's see what else we got. Maybe it's one of these things where like I have to turn this off to get to that or something. Let's just see what happens if I hold down the auto button. Now that's it. So it's not filling the full screen, but it is apparently a true 4x3 aspect ratio. And the monoscope pattern definitely does it. But all right, so I think that's it for VGA direct input. Let me switch this over to using a scaler and see what we got from there. And I'm also interested to see what happens when we feed it a 1080p signal. Grab my tink. think leaving it on the monoscope pattern is probably good for now. And then, of course, we'll switch and try different stuff in a moment once we have a few things aligned here. But check this out. Bring the controls over with me. So, okay. Output resolution. So that's 10. Let's try 1080p over and see what happens. So here's where things get kind of interesting. So you have to feed it a square resolution. Interesting. Yeah, there you gamer. We're getting there. One step at a time, my friend. Just teasing, of course, but so that does kind of make sense. Let's test it with some other resolutions to see. So this is not something that you could just grab the retro tank and plug it in. You have to feed it a 4:3 resolution. So let's go. And of course, we could switch to the OSSC in a moment as well. I just had the tank handy. So let's go to 1200p. See what we got. So is this 1900 by 1200 though? That's kind of the thing. Let's see. Yep. So let's try one of the. I'm gonna get out of this menu to see the other one. That's another cool feature about being able to move this menu around, though. So if you know you're always going to be in like the Mr. menu or something else, moving the LCD panel menu over is definitely a handy thing to have. I don't think that's going to work, but let's try it anyway. Huh? I mean, it's a 1600 by 1200 panel, so it's obviously scaling it, which is why you have that, but I wouldn't run it that way, but that's kind of interesting. Take care, matey. Odd that it's not filling the screen, so I think what we're going to need to do is switch to the open source scan converter. Anybody here disagree or want to see anything else? Yeah, so Dennis Wolf Retro wants to know what exactly is the application here. I have some ideas that I want to talk about afterwards, what I think this thing could be used for. But their marketing material is, hey, if you have an arcade machine that could fit a 20-inch monitor and your CRT dies, you could grab one of these, use the mounting rails, and go from there. By the way, if you're just joining, it's dark because I want to get the screen in focus. I'll turn the brightness back up when we're checking other stuff out later. Still doesn't fill the whole screen, but this is kind of what I would have expected. Let's try 5x, and let's also go down here, line 5x format, 1600 by 1200. So this is actually pretty cool. I do this very carefully. That is one of the next things I'm going to test. Excellent question, though. I'm gonna try to get that stupid moire pattern out of here. That's not the panel. That's what it's like taking video of flat panels. All right. So Daniel, this is the open source scan converter in 5x mode, but in 1600 by 1200 mode. Oh, I just I knocked the cartridge when I did that. That was totally my fault. Let me just try that again. Screen filled, but that's fine. Well, this doesn't really do too much. I can't really see a difference. Alex, it's 2 milliseconds of latency. Really impressive, all things considered. Scrolling's about the same. Hey, retired night owl. So, turn the scrolling up fast and see. Maybe I can get a. I'm very, very surprisingly impressed about all of this, honestly. I was going to grab Dreamcast or Mister. Which one would you all suggest? I think I'm going to grab Dreamcast because it's just going to be an easy plug in test. I'm going to have to put some of this stuff away to make room for it, so you'll have to excuse me. But I'm so surprisingly impressed. Lily popped in right after the bot. Is that a coincidence, Lily? um, hey, I know this is totally random, by the way, but I have this Sega Sports Edition Dreamcast, and it's my only Dreamcast, and I hate using it for stuff like this because this is supposed to be like a rare, coveted thing, and I just use it for testing. It's all stock, other than this hairline scratch. Oh, let me wipe the dust off. Other than that tiny little scratch, that you barely can't. I don't even think I can get it on camera. It's in mint condition. Oh, yeah, there you go. You can kind of see it. But anybody want to trade or something? Because this just seems. I have the matching controller. This seems like something that should be very well taken care of, never touched, and certainly not used just for testing like mine. The gamer that wasn't mine. That many, in fact, almost all of the really expensive stuff that isn't mine. Rich influencer just spending all of his Patreon money on HDMI mods and buying four of the same one. No. You ever think maybe people are nice enough to let me borrow this I'm not even really going to need to load a game. I just want to see if it's full screen. I'll find my VGA cable here. But I definitely found matching Sports Edition controller. I don't even keep it with my other controllers. I keep it all nice and neat. Got it. Using the RetroBit one for VGA testing. I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's just rebranded crap, but for tests like this, it's more than good enough. Oh, Ash, the sound breaking up might be because I'm using NVIDIA Broadcast, but I appreciate you letting me know. Um, will it fit in a Sega Candy Cab? Well, considering those are 29-inch monitors, it should almost definitely. So you would want a bigger one, I would think. Mostly filled with the screen. I'm gonna have to back. Let me change the camera around a little bit so I can screen on zoom in here. I think that's sort of good for the opening. It's obviously going to be in 480p mode now because it's a VGA cable. But let's test the sharpness once more. Also does a good job for 480p. Let me see if I could see if I can get zoomed in again. quick before the doom stops. That's a big difference, huh? That's really cool. So, let's see what else. Because there's a hair that fills the screen to the bottom, but there's a hair more on top that's not being filled. So let me hold down auto. And oh, no, that's it. There's like a millimeter, but for the most part, that's full screen. Well, I only have the 240p test suite here, so I can still test more Dreamcast if you'd like, but all I really wanted to see was 480p, and then I was going to plug in the Mister. So, anybody have any other things they want me to test before I do that? Yeah, so Ash reminded everybody Dreamcast also has a weird aspect because it renders a 640 by 480 frame, but by using a 720 by 480 sync timings, which is why you'll always see the space on the left and right. But you know what? Since we're talking about this, and since you can see it from this angle, let me just kind of go through the menus here and see if I can stretch it. So right now, brightness, contrast, sharpness, all I got. So let's go to oh, if I stretch the pixel clock to 100%, it stretches the image, keeps it sharp. So you would have to, if you were, I guess that means if you were using this with a Naomi, you could set the sharpness all the way, and that'll look pretty good. You could stretch it, but the moment you switched to something else, that would change. So I think a good way to test that, because the OSSC is already out, seeing what happens here. So okay, so now you see the HDMI menu, and let's go back and look. So there's no pixel clock and phase on this, and this is both at 50/50. So let's go back to input. And that seems to reset. So you would have to change it every time. Yeah. Not a big deal. Just something I wanted to call out. I mean, it does seem that hey, Dustin, monitor is surprisingly good. Surprisingly. So it seems like while there's absolutely some room for Arcooda to load up a different, an updated firmware to kind of clear up some of these up and down is opposite, and certain things work and certain don't. I mean, that's there's room for like quality of life improvements, but as far as this is a $250 panel that accepts a 240p signal and does a sharp enough scale. I'm really, really impressed. I mean, obviously, you know, you're not gonna. I'm sure if I set up my camera and spent hours doing side by side comparisons with the OSSC and not like, I'm sure that a dedicated scaler would look better, but that's not the point. The point is, you could buy this and just get started, or even more importantly, if you run an arcade somewhere and you can't afford, you know, 15 retro tanks and 15 of these, You could absolutely just set it to sharp. Let's just hope that arcade operators are not too lazy and actually set it to sharp. But that's impressive. That is really, really impressive. And by the way, anybody that's listening that heard what I said, I'm not accusing arcade operators of being lazy, but I think we all have walked into a bar somewhere and they have like a Galga machine or something with an LCD panel shoehorned in that looks freaking terrible. Those are the ones I'm referring to, not awesome retro arcades that use this stuff. Steven, I'll definitely try some scan lines. 1903 TX, 2 milliseconds. I mean, it's an LCD panel, it's side lit. So, I would imagine that an OLED panel with BFI and a frame and a half of lag would feel the same as this with 2 milliseconds, but still, that's really impressive. Nicole, a 61 and 1 on an old PC LCD, probably duct taped into the cab. It's funny because it's true. Last chance, the Dreamcast Sports Edition. Anybody? Anybody? Mint condition. I'd love to trade it for like a beat to crap one with a mode in it so I could do some wireless testing for RetroRGB. Here, just because it's in mint condition, and it's kind of hard to find stuff like that mint nowadays. I've seen them on eBay for ridiculous prices, and then I've seen them kind of scuffed up for more fair prices. But anybody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Are the Sports Edition Dreamcast, the original black one, still the one still really sought after, or does nobody care anymore? Lyra Fox, I need to retrobrite my VA1 Dreamcast. Yeah, it's or you can get one of those. Find what I did with my other Mister. Here we go. It's funny. I was just saying how sometimes people are like, "Why are you spending all your Patreon money on like 4 HDMI mods?" I really do have 4 Misters. I use, or I should say, 4 DE10s. I just use them for everything. I got the Mister Multi System sitting. You can see the Super Nintendo in the background. It's just to the left of that. That's what I've been using as my main one. Then this is the one, the Retro Castle one, that I've been using for testing. And this also has the new composite circuit in, but I'm waiting for Mike to send me those before I end up digging deep into that. And then of course I have one in the Sammy arcade machine that I showed the other day. And then the final one, stop walking in front of the stupid camera, the Dex. And that one will eventually go into my other cab if I could ever get it working. I think that guy Yatan's gone into hiding. I think he owes so many people, so much money. The only thing I'm going to do is check out what the. Sorry for stepping directly in front of the camera. It's right where my keyboard is. I'm going to try to find the exact resolution of this Mister to make sure I can fill the screen. Velociraptor, I love the multi-system. So the thing is with this Mr. stuff, unless I mean this with love, I swear, but unless they've done something wrong, they should all work the same. And if they don't, then somebody definitely did something wrong with it. So it's really about what features you want and the look and feel of it. But actual performance should be basically the same. All right, so I'm going to set up a couple of different lines. So I'm going to default to 640 by 480. I'm going to set up some alternates as well. Second one is going to be, I guess, 1024 by 768. Interesting, there is no, unless I'm missing it, I don't think there's a 1600 by 1200. Anybody here good at doing custom stuff for Mister? Sorry, I was behind the mic. So I guess second one I'll do video mode equals yeah, I guess it'd be 1024 by 768, but I'd like to really test the 1600 by 1200. Let me bother Martin again. Just asked Martin if he knew the exact mode lines for that. What we would need to do, but we have us started with at least two here, and I could always just eject it and check it out with another one if Martin happens to know the answer to that. The other thing that's kind of cool about this one is it's powered by USB-C, and I have a hub right on my desk that has a high amperage USB output. So I'm actually able to just basically power this right off my desk, which is kind of cool. Recycling. Oh, go. It says no cable. Am I not plugged in? No, I'm plugged in. Weird. I'll double and triple check my Mister, but it wasn't taking the 640 by 480 output. That doesn't seem right. I'm just going to assume that was my mistake. Definitely. Alex, one of these Misters goes for a couple $100 if you need everything with it. Oh, Wickerwaka to the rescue one more time. Perfect timing. Once I confirm that this works, I'll drop it in the chat just for people to reference. Martin gave me 2 to try, so Alex, no, not 600 like the eBay prices. No. Funny, Modern Vintage Gamer got so much shit for that. He didn't do anything wrong. All he said was you could, scalpers are jacking up the prices to whatever, and then people lost their minds about that. I don't get it. He wasn't wrong. He wasn't telling you to pay that. He was just saying that's kind of what happens. I'm gonna leave you a link right now to the one I'm using. And of course, always just check Mr. Add-on's website if those are the ones that you prefer. But here's the one I'm using right now. And there's no affiliate links, but if there was one available, I'd use it. So, okay. Try plugging this into the capture card just to see what happens here. So that's working, obviously, then. And let me grab a So we're now running at 1600 by 1200, 15 or 59.9. Perfect. So pull the power out of this. Plug the HDMI cable in, plug the power in, and we should just be working because it was just working. No cable. The menu wasn't coming up. Did we just find a bug? If we leave it in VGA mode, is that going to happen? Well, one way to find out here. Let's grab the good old time sleuth, plug it in, and swap it over. Oh, Fenris, that is my dream, an MK core. Mudamir, I think that's how you pronounce it. My apologies if not. So you're right. Don't buy them on eBay. However, the link that I just posted, I think Ivory is still selling bundles, and you're not really getting that much of a markup. Like it's fair. It's basically you're just paying them for their time to assemble it. You're not really getting a markup on anything else. That's interesting. It got stuck in VGA mode without automatically being able to detect it. So let's of course do it again because we're nerds and that's what we do. In fact, let me just leave this powered off for a couple of moments. Give it a second, let it discharge, and then we'll see if we need to do that again. Vendors bought a bootleg MK1 arcade PCB just to play on their Supergun setup. How does it work? And what makes it a bootleg? Is it a different game, a different Midway game converted to MK? Is it a complete hack job? Does it work okay? I'm clearly not shaming. I'm just genuinely curious. Not like buying a bootleg one's gonna take money out of it in pocket or something. Fired right up, directly into it. So, interesting that had happened. But it also fills the screen all the way. So let me drop just that's just the video mode. And then if for whatever reason that didn't work, you could try this one, but this seems to work fine. So let me see if there's a way I could prop this up so that we could work the controls and I could show you whatever it is that you would like to be seeing. Might be just a moment. Okay, it's kind of lined up properly. I just gotta find something to jam behind it. Voltar's ego. That's big and stubborn enough to keep one of these in place. MK2 arcade board. I think that'll probably be solid. Yeah, all right. So by the way, any of the pattern that you see here, like look at the red stripe, watch this. That is a moire pattern. That is not what your eyes will see. That is what the camera sees. Which sucks because that means that as much as I've been praising this monitor, anybody who's just casually joining the stream might think that's how it looks. So it is not, I promise you. I also want to turn the brightness back down in the room just so you could see that better. Yeah, okay. I think that's a little better. Here. Onslaught went to church with Shang Tsung from NK2? That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. What about MK for MS-DOS? Well, John Linneman did the whole video on it, and then AVGN stole it. Actually, I don't think James stole it. I think Tons of Fun stole it and told them that they wrote it, but whatever. So let's start with an arcade game, because, well, actually, just real quick. The sharpness is still up. Let me just see what it does. It probably won't do anything. It's such a small difference because we're running in its native resolution. Like you can see, 1600 by 1200 at 59.9. So what I would really have liked to have seen, and I don't have the ability to test today, but I would love to have seen Mortal Kombat and its weird refresh rate to see if this would take it. But maybe we could figure out something like it. But anyway, wrong button. I'm used to my other controller. Fenris, that's fucking hilarious. Budimir, what are you looking for? I promise I'll try to pay attention to the chat because the way YouTube does it, it blocks all of the links, and I actually think that's one of the few things they get right. I'm also going to lower the brightness a little even more here so you could try to get a better idea. What about this? Let me know if you think this one's okay. I mean, that looks really cool. That looks really cool. Um, are you talking about the link that I was just talking about here? I'll just resend it, no problem. And if you're looking for a link to this panel, the main manufacturer is in the description. I'm not really sure where the distribution is, but here you go. There you go. So this always confuses me, right? This is I know the Mr. Team gets upset when I say this, but how the fuck do you work work the scan lines? Video filter from file, scan lines adaptive. A little too dark, so the track mode to come back. Yeah, Stream Crush. There's a couple stories about that company. Are the scan lines even coming through on the stream? Crest of Honor, what's my favorite Scanline CRT filter? The RetroTink 5X's BVM one with the different mask enabled. I think I had posted about that a long time ago, to the point where I forgot it. But on my OLED TV, it really felt like a BVM, like big time. I don't know if the scan lines are coming through on this. I think what's happening is the YouTube's compression is totally screwing it up. I'm just going to turn this off. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work well, especially with the moire pattern. I think it's just going to look absolutely terrible. So, yeah, I think if I had the patience, I could actually make I could basically take exactly what I love about the Tink 5X in its CRT filters, and because Mike ported them over, I think I could make my own custom one on this. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes the menu kind of gets to me. But let's check out a couple of other. Oh, R-Type. Somebody mentioned R-Type. Yeah, it looks like you put your tights over the screen, Bob. Yeah. The normal 55 hertz. I think it just takes all of them. Shane, shockingly good. Like, I can't believe this thing has 2 milliseconds of lag and scales totally fine. It's no RetroTink 5X, but if you take it in the context of an LCD panel with a free built-in scaler, you turn the sharpness up all the way and it's awesome. If you put it next to a Tink 5X, it's a little different, but Game is hard. I'm feeding native resolution from the Mister, but I might try and go back and get Mister's direct output. I would need it would be harder than you'd think though, because the Mister that I'm using now, the I/O board has the Saturn output, not the VGA, so I'd have to go through a bunch of devices. I mean, that looks pretty smooth, everybody, right? Is there some kind of audio out in this monitor? It mentions audio, so let me see. Not hearing a damn thing. Stand along means. Does anybody have any clue what stand along means? Yeah. So there's no speakers in this. Maybe the HDMI audio breaks out and that's what that audio port is at the bottom. So, Shane, funny you bring that up. And I was debating on whether or not to even mention this or not, but there is a project called the Checkmate Monitor. And the guy who's behind it was such a douchebag. He asked me for my help, and then when I gave it to him, because I didn't just immediately drop to my knees and start blowing him, he went into his private chat and started talking all this horrible shit about me. And so I called him out on it. I sent him the screenshots, and he's like, "Oh, I wasn't talking about you." So it's basically like, "Oh, fuck that fat guy with a beard who always wears a black shirt and does a podcast on Wednesday, but I'm not talking about you." Like, but he is trying to sell basically a 2001 Dell 5x4 flat panel for over $500 because it's in a CRT like case, which the case is beautiful. I've never said anything bad about the case. And then he's trying to jam a GBS control into it. He's trying to add all of this stuff that's going to add cost and complexity and make support a nightmare and jack the price up for stuff that people never asked for. So, and one of the things I asked him about, why would you use a 5x3 or 5x4 panel? Well, 4.3 is hard to find. Yeah, no shit, dude. If it was easy, everybody would have already done it. So what I think this should be used for is stuff like that. I think Steven should get out of his echo chamber, stop pushing away people that he asked for free help that gave it to him, and just buy this. I bet you if he talked to Arcooda, he could have a custom firmware made with his own logo. He could have the proper stuff built in, and I bet you people would love this. I mean, because he has a Checkmate, like an Amiga PC thing that he sells. If you owned one of those, you would definitely spend $500 on this monitor plus a beautiful CRT looking case to match. But you know, also just break out the VGA and HDMI ports to the back and the power and you're done. And in fact, you could even, if you wanted to, probably not include the power supply, build your own in, because this is just 12 volts, 5 amps. So you should be able to have everything included. So if anybody's friends with Steven and you have the patience to deal with him, let him know he's wasting a ton of time and most importantly, other people's money by trying to sell that shitty 18 milliseconds a lag 5x4 panel. This is what you need. You need this. And I think it would just be beautiful. I mean, this isn't the best panel in the world, right? Look at the checkerboard when I'm running past. And I could probably mess with some Mr. settings to try to make it a little bit better, but there's nothing wrong with this panel. Nothing. I gotta be honest. I went into this thing truly expecting not to like it. This is really good. Let me just go through the chat real quick. Yeah, XXX. I don't know when he's in a mood, he's in a mood. I just can't talk to him like that. I don't know if he actually found a problem with it or not. But any chance of a teardown? Yeah, I think I could do that. How do I feel about scanline filters for games on 6th gen consoles like the Dreamcast, PS2, whatever? In all honesty, it could very well look great. It really just depends on your own opinion of that. It's one of those like because it also depends on the game. Because I genuinely think that some 480p games look gorgeous on flat panel monitors. A lot of Dreamcast games, I genuinely think, just look really at home on a flat panel. However, there are some games that you would kind of want more of a CRT like look, and those scan lines I think would be great. All right, let's try V integer scale, and this is what we would get from using like the OSSC, because that would vertical integer into this. So it's even sharper, and it's yeah, it's even sharper, and there's not as much motion blur going by. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but this panel is a complete win. I mean, you have to have realistic expectations. The scaler built in is not going to be a RetroTink 5X, and it's not going to look like a beautiful OLED with BFI enabled. But for 200 and something bucks, yeah, they win. They win. The only other thing I want to check, the numbers at Sonic are always a great way to check edge enhancement and ringing. It barely does anything in native resolution mode, as it should, by the way. But so that's a good thing. I call that a win. Other than a teardown, is there anything anybody else wants to see on this one? Monty, honestly, I'm impressed. Just the only thing to note is because of the resolution, 1600 by 1200, you're going to have, if you like full integer scaling, you're going to have that much space between the bezel and the top of the screen on a lot of these games. You can, of course, just use the scaling mode that brings it all the way up. If I would hit the right button, that would help. So watch how it fills right here. And it's you're going to lose a tiny bit of sharpness. There's going to be a tiny little bit of interpolation that you see, but I like it. Can you do cropping at this resolution? Good point. I don't think so, but let me double check. Think so. No, I'm not seeing it. Damn it, Lily. Any suggestions on decent and cheap VGA extension cables? Ooh, I don't know. Check the Amazon store. I haven't bought them in a long time. I bought them when I was still in Stanford. I must have bought 10 of them and probably gave away or threw out most because most were pretty terrible. But yeah, if I don't have one listed, then I haven't bought one recently. My Logitech controller is weird. Like sometimes you have to switch the modes multiple times for it to work, but now it does because you can see it's not going all the way down. A little too sensitive too, but let me restart that because that sucked. There appears to not be a speaker in this, correct? Game looks beautiful, doesn't it? Curious to see what Hotego's going to release tomorrow. Well, perfect timing. Just flew off the bike. Perfect timing to switch around and see. But I love it. Defaults to the integer, or maybe it doesn't. And I said it last time I used it, but great John Zini. That would be something that you would want to see because if we do that, like I'll show you, but what you're going to be looking at is the misters deinterlacing. But I'll still show it because that's a neat one. YouTube, it looks washed out. Well, let me try one more thing. Let me just try dropping it down. I'm not going to get it perfect, but and with all respect to everybody watching, I would love to get a perfect stream and a perfect setup, but I would probably have to spend 3-4 hours getting everything lined up, and it still wouldn't look that great. It would look 20% better, not 100% better. So I just having it off the cuff like this is just better for everybody, I think. Yeah, so you're just seeing Misters deinterlacing, which does a good job, but 480i on flat panels doesn't really age well. All right, so these tests are all being done with VSync Adjust 2 in the INI. I don't know, man, but that's a great question. So let me XXX. By the way, I use generic words like man and dude all the time. I mean no gender by them. I don't know. You could be a fucking space alien. As long as you're being a cool nerd, I couldn't give a shit either way. That's actually a total lie. It would be amazing if you were an alien. Like, it would be really cool. Okay, so, poop emoji will never go out of fashion, Ash. VSync adjust. Let me call out any of these. So V-scale mode, I'm gonna switch it to 1 for integer only, just because. Other settings here. FB size is 0. I don't know, Steven. I hope so. It'd be cool to hang out with an alien. All right, VSync adjust. It was at 0. So you're right, let me set it to 2, because I had just broken out a brand new Mr. INI file to set this custom video mode. So that is a good catch. I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other setting in the Mr. INI file that you would want me to look at? Me. All right, let me check the chat and see what we got. I guess that's it. I don't think anybody else had called out any other settings, so I'm going to save it and fire it back up and just run a couple of quick tests, then do a teardown, and then we're out. Okay, well, that's good news. It came right back up. I didn't have to switch an input again. So it does remember the last input. So that must be it. What does 240p crop do? Oh, I think it crops it, but then it recenters it. Let me see. Just checking the chat here. I guess I really need to pay attention to the game. It's a game where you can't do anything without dying. So the flashing looks the same regardless. So it seems like this thing does sync on weird timings as well. As you can see, though, it does take a minute to resync, whereas when I had the buffer up at the highest setting, it didn't, but I don't think that's a problem at all. Especially for arcade games. Anything else to test before I take this thing apart? They're just talking about food, Ash. You know you're making me hungry. Deep Flake, that's an awesome question. I'm going to reach out to the company after this and ask them because I'm impressed. And once again, in case you're joining, I'm so sorry if I'm repeating myself for everybody else. This is not the end all be all of all monitors, but it's really impressive, all things considered. For the price, I guess, is the best way to put it. Good call, Jason. I'll try that in a second. The best I'd ever seen Super Nintendo look on a flat panel was a 1536p resolution monitor in a true 8x7 scaling mode. It was crazy. It was beyond sharp. Yeah, it looks pretty damn smooth to me. So let me try Neo Geo again. Crest of Honor on Greg's panel. It's the one I was referring to. Great Johnzini, no 120 hertz, no. Neo Geo's looking good. Couple of questions from the chat. Price is $250 plus freight costs, or did I get a local sale? One of my amazing Patreon subscribers, patreon.com/RetroRGB, purchased this and had it drop shipped to me. And then tomorrow I'm going to be shipping it back to them. So I got this. I got to do this for free, and whatever the cost of shipping back to them is. So hopefully they don't live in, like, I don't know, Zimbabwe or something, so shipping isn't going to cost $1 million. But if it is, there should be a super chat button. Sorry, I'm being silly. All right, let's see. GBA was the next one people had asked me to try, so absolutely. When they quote the panel latency, do they use the top of the screen or the average? I don't know or care. I always go up here because there's a lot to be argued about between experts about the latency across the panel, but it's always going to be 16.5-ish milliseconds to draw an NTSC frame. So what I care about is what is the delay for the image to start being drawn? And that's the thing. So some people say that you should go in the bottom right because that is where most of your characters are in fighting games. So you should take whatever the total is and minus 16.5. They're not wrong at all. But generally speaking, basic latency is what I try to convey in a general setting. Hello, goodbye. What's PAL like on this monitor? No idea, my friend. I have no way to play PAL stuff. See what else we got in the chat. Steven, the iPad 3, if you go back to the video I did with Greg a while back, it tested it just about the same latency as this, which was really impressive. Okay, so let's try one race and then I'll pop this sucker open unless there's any other questions or suggestions from the chat. Viewing angle, not terrible at all. Like, I could actually see it from this angle. Like, if this is head on, I'm looking at it like this. This thing looks fine. Let's just check the video settings to make sure. Sync core to video. I mean, everything seems to be still working, right? Am I missing everything? Anything? Wonder Swan. That's going to be a weird one, but I'll give it a try anyway, just for the hell of it. I actually don't know if I have any Wonder Swan games on here, so we'll see. I'll try, obviously. Oh, hey. I guess I do. I have no idea what any of the games are, by the way. I mean, it's looking good to me, right? Cookie is not a biscuit. I'm going to try a game that might actually have some movement on it. Probably should have set my buttons. Weird refresh rate and resolution looks fine. Hardcore, that's like 90% of the panels out there. Well, that's impressive, huh? 75 hertz is working. At 75 hertz mode. So that's pretty cool. All right, I think Mr. Testing has gone well. Do I have lime marmalade and marmalade in the U.S.? I can't even remember the last time I've had marmalade. Would you please pass the all fruit? If there's any old people in the chat, ask them what that is. I've basically been surprisingly gushing over this monitor the entire time. So negative sides of the monitor, you can see that it's edge lit, not or if it's not edge lit, you can see the light spilling over the bezel. Which at the end of the day, it's going to be the lightest complaint you could imagine. And the menu, the firmware menu needs cleaning up. You know, a lot of the stuff that you see doesn't match what's on the screen. Down is sometimes up, but like when you're talking about the performance of a panel, it's like the least of my worries. Ash, we're still watching, but biscuits, crisps, sweets, and jams are very important. Yeah, you're talking to a fat guy, Ash. Of course I know how important they are. So this is one of the ones that you lift off. Unfortunately, it's a gloomy day. Otherwise, it would have been a lot brighter. Let me just jack up the ISO rating on this thing and see what we got. Helps a little. Get that off. Pull that out. Actually, I guess you could have pushed down, but not my monitor. Wanted to be careful. So once again, this is the length of the buttons. So if somebody, say, I don't know, Steven from Checkmate, were to actually put a low latency correct aspect ratio panel in, they could just order this, save some money, tell them not to include it, and then just mount that directly in the front. Or even better, make their own and have it labeled properly. Screwdriver and get it open. Will we ever get a screen technology that somehow supports light guns again? Um, in the traditional sense. If you're talking about plugging Sega Genesis directly into a TV or through a scaler, and then plugging that in and being able to use the original like justifier or something, I don't think that's going to be possible. But I do think Mr. Project, Descendant Light Gun, and JB, I'm still waiting on that prototype. I think there's going to be a lot of very cool alternatives that won't make that a necessity anymore. Basic as it gets, which is a good thing. Hold on, let me this out and then hold it up to the camera. All right. Um, watch Ash is already going to know what all of these things are and the chips that are on them and everything else. But you have the power supply here, and that's just the LED lighting power supply. Then you have the main processing board, and this is the board with the LVDS output that basically does the processing. And this is pretty cool because whatever it does for sharp scaling, their firmware in here was done properly. I don't know what this connector might have been for. Maybe that was for audio. I don't see any kind of speaker here, although this audio jack might have been breaking out analog audio from the HDMI. And there's dip switches that I can't understand what they might be for. So if anybody wants to check the website and see what the dip switches are for, this is not my monitor. So respectfully, I'm not going to just start flipping them and turning it on. I don't want to fry anything, although it'd be kind of funny, but not if I had to pay for it. Close up of the edge of the main chip. Ash, what I will do is snap a couple pics for you right now, because there's no chance that I'm going to get this to look right on stream here. Well, it looks like there's a heat sink on the main chip. Getting this to you right now, my friend. And I'll get a picture of the secondary board. I mean, the main power shouldn't be anything special, but what the hell. So let me know, Ash. McGinty 2, thank you so much for the super chat. That is absolutely awesome. McGinty said, caught up with your 3DO stream, and they're in the middle of adding a fan to their NTSC-J console too. Other than the fan header, you need to add a cap at C660 and a ferrite bead at L660 to complete the circuit. I am leaving myself a note for that. That is really awesome. Thank you so much. By the way, that I had to delete that because somebody sent me a super chat because they flagged me for the game audio in Road Rash. Thanks for swinging by, Velociraptor. So other than that, this is basically just a larger 20-inch panel that has a... Is that metal? Yeah, a thin metal frame to it with mounting options. These are the screws on the side that those plates can go onto. And overall, I like it. I think this is a win. Did I run VSync Adjust 2 with Mr.? Yes, thanks to an awesome person in the chat, I did. I had actually forgotten, but they helped me, remind me to confirm, and it worked perfect. Not only did it work perfect, it worked with the WonderSwan core at 75 hertz, it worked with R-Type at 50-something hertz, and it worked GBA as well. It's the R8311 board, apparently. There isn't really a room for the Mister in the back of this. However, because it's side mounted, anybody with some CAD software could probably make a metal shield where you could take this off, or heck, you could probably just take this off, mount a Mister here, and then just leave this hanging in the back. I don't think that would be the slightest bit unsafe if you were doing that inside of an arcade machine or, I don't know, a custom case to make it look like a CRT. To see it fit inside. Nah, good call. But I mean, there's not much of a need to fit anything inside, especially when you could just affix it alongside it or something like that. So I think that's basically it. Highest resolution is 1600 by 1200. I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes and clean up just in case any of you have any questions or if there's something last minute thing that you think about that you want me to test out. But I think for the most part, this is a win. And as soon as I'm done with this stream, I'm going to be writing up a post saying that I like it for all the reasons that I said here. Not to like, other than nitpicks or things that should be easy firmware updates. Now, the problem is, how do you update the firmware? And based on that picture I just took, you would need a custom programmer, which would suck. But these aren't these aren't experience-breaking things. Kalka, everything. This is going to be a post on the website in like an hour, and it's all just pretty good. But yeah, sorry, Jamie. Real Phoenix, no JTAG. I don't. Ash, could you confirm, please, what you saw in there? If there's a port to program anything? And Yadagaris, no. I actually like the Laser Bear one better, but you can't get them anymore at all. And the ones that you could have gotten would have been much more, probably twice the price of this. So I still call this a win. Jessica here, can I give a short overview? Yeah, you know what? This is perfect. Why don't, when I clean up, let me just give a recap of everything. So this is a 20-inch 4x3 monitor that has about 2 milliseconds of lag and very respectable image blur LCD motion issues. It's not the best, but it's also about 250 bucks. Hopefully you can still hear me with this. Yeah, Shane, drop test. I'll get to that in a second. It's about 250 bucks. And very, very interesting features of it are you can feed it 240p, either HDMI or VGA, which means if you buy their adapter, you absolutely could plug your your JAMA harness into it. Or if you just want to build your own custom thing, you could, as long as it's TTL level sync, so not C-Sync, but you just need a SCART cleaner or something else. Oh, I forgot. I'm supposed to put the power supply here. You would be able to feed this thing a raw 240p signal, turn the sharpness up, and it'll actually be sharp. Now, expectations should be curbed. This is not a RetroTink 5X built in, but holy crap, it's not shitty at all. Not even close. Like nothing for a free built-in sharp scale. Nobody in their right mind would complain. The only complaints I had about it is it defaulted to the last input, which meant when I switched from VGA to HDMI, I couldn't get HDMI to work until I plugged the VGA source in. That should be fairly easy to fix at some point. And the only other thing that was kind of annoying was that the menu, some features weren't working, some things were labeled wrong, but overall, one thing was worded in a way that I just don't even understand what they were talking about. But all is, when all is said and done, it's really worth money if this is the thing that you were looking for. Curb your expectations. It's not an OLED with BFI running at 120 hertz, but for the price for what you're getting, I think this is great. I think anybody who bought one should be happy with it. I believe this was all this. Anybody here at the beginning when I took this sucker apart? That's what it looked like, right? Does anybody have any wisdom about SMD ferrite beads? Ash would definitely have something to offer here, and I could try to help. Also, the only other things to mention is that it seemed to sync on everything as far as refresh rates, including weird stuff like WonderSwan and Game Boy Advance, and even in Mister's lowest latency modes that don't have much buffering. Get this back in as neatly as possible. And of course, it's going to fall outside. I should probably tape that up. Not really concerned with fidelity, only input lag for the cost of the display. Statement. So for 250 bucks, you're getting a 2 millisecond lag, not 2 frames, 2 milliseconds at the original 4:3 aspect ratio. So my opinion is that's a definite win. Yeah. Oh, okay, definitely. So McGinty, that's definitely something that Ash might be able to help with. Because when it comes to that stuff, I guess the best way to describe it is I know enough to get it done, but I don't know enough to confidently explain it to other people. Like when I'm talking about input lag, I've done over 10 years worth of testing. I kind of know what I'm talking about. But when it comes to ferrite beads, not so much. So I'm about to turn this stream off. I just want to make sure I hang on in case anybody has any other questions or anything like that. We just need another quick moment to so good. Very cool, McGinty, and thanks again for both the super chat and for the info. Let me pull this off without exposing anybody's address here. If I can, jeez, that's a lot of stickers. I'm gonna need my knife again. Wow. Kawaka, it does not have Visa mount holes. It has brackets that you bolt to the side that you could mount in your arcade machine because that's the designed mounting. You could mount it to your arcade machine or even maybe a custom design case that you want to make. Oh, the other thing I should mention is the shipping was incredibly fast. This got from Australia to East Coast US in like 3 days. I think it was insane price shipping. So that's absolutely something worth mentioning. Yeah, EW. Honestly, most of the stuff that you see me test is exactly like this. I borrow something from a friend, I do the test, ship it right back to whoever was kind enough to let me borrow it, and that's it. Test over. Some stuff I really wish I could keep. Other stuff I wish I could keep if I had room, but I don't have room for it anyway. And other stuff I'm happy to seek off, like anything N64. Okay, so one last thing of tape, and I think we're out of here. So, any other questions? Now's the time. Unless it's about ferrite beads, because then I'm not smart enough. PS2 Noctua at 7 volts possibly spins the fan too slow for adequate airflow for the console. I didn't know that, but that's an interesting one. I have to, you know what? I've kind of heard that before though. Um, ever since that replacement kit came out a while back. Would I keep this if I had room? Absolutely, no doubt. I would find some way to use it. I don't know how, I don't know what, but something. I would use it for something because this is definitely worth it. Someday the N64 gods will smite Bob for his insolence. Okay, this apparently is an IPS screen, and it makes sense because I was able to see it from the side. So like, if this is the angle you were all watching it at, I was watching it this angle, and I still thought it looked good. So yeah, TFT IPS, I get it, I get it. But well, yes, 250. This was an awesome stream. You are all awesome. Thank you for hanging out with me and doing this. This is exactly what I would have done without streaming it. It's just so much more fun to hang out with all of you. So thank you so much. Monty, I said shipping was fast. I don't think it was that expensive, but you might want to double check from the distributor. So awesome. You're all the best. Thank you very much, and I'll hopefully see you soon for another one.